So picture this. Eva Weston, trauma nurse, is standing in the director's office still wearing gloves with a Delta Force general's blood on them. Not a great look, right? The director's pissed. You're done here. No authorization, no protocol. You crossed the line. Eva doesn't even try to defend herself. She just says, real quiet, he wasn't crashing. He was poisoned and none of you saw it. Turn in your badge before I call security, he snaps. Eva walks out. Colleagues won't even look at her. One whispers loud enough for her to hear. She's a nurse, not a doctor. She overstepped. But then, 11 minutes later, the windows start shaking. Not violently, just enough to make everyone shut up and notice. A receptionist looks up. Is that a helicopter? Staff rush to the stairwell. A Navy helicopter drops onto the roof. Dust everywhere. Before the rotors even slow down, uniformed personnel pour out, scanning faces like they're hunting someone. One of them shouts, "We need Eva Weston." The entire hospital freezes. The director goes pale because only now does everyone realise they didn't just fire a nurse. They fired the only combat medic in the building. The trauma bay doors slammed open just after 9 a.m, and the whole ER shifted into overdrive. Paramedics pushing the stretcher looked like guys who'd been holding their breath for miles. The man on the bed wasn't just anyone. Dark blue blazer, medals, service pin near the collar. A face that said he'd stared down death before. But this time, death was winning. Eva saw it the second the stretcher rolled past. Not just the grey tint on his jaw or the cold sweat. It was the way his fingers curled unnaturally tight, like his nerves didn't trust his muscles anymore. She stepped closer, brushing her hand over his forearm. Doctors were already crowding around. "Male, mid-60s, a paramedic shouted. "Collapsed in transport, heart rate unstable, GCS dropping fast." "He's going into cardiac failure," a doctor barked. "No," Eva muttered, "he's not." Nobody heard her. Or maybe they did, and figured a nurse should stay in her lane. While the cardio team argued about atropine doses, Eva lifted the general's eyelid with her thumb. The pupil snapped tight under the light. Too fast, too strong. Not cardiac, neurotoxic. The room was buzzing with orders and alarms, but Eva tuned it all out. She saw the faint purple shadowing along his nail beds, the stiffness in his jaw, the shallow breaths that didn't match his heart rhythm at all. She'd seen this before, in a place no civilian hospital trains for. Her stomach dropped. "No, it can't be," she whispered. "Step back, Weston," Dr. Myers snapped, elbowing her aside. "Let us handle this. He needs epi." "No, he needs an antidote," she said. Myers froze. The attending physician turned sharply. "What did you say?" Eva didn't have time to argue. She moved past him, ripped open the emergency tox tray, fingers flying across labels until she found the vial, something most doctors there had never even used. "Weston!" Myers roared. "You're out of line!" But Eva wasn't listening anymore. She injected the antidote into the general's arm, pulse hammering as she whispered, "Come on, don't make me relive this." The room erupted. "You could kill him. You're not authorized. What the hell is she doing?" Eva stayed by the bedside, watching the monitor, counting down in her head like she'd done a dozen times before on the other side of the world. 1 second, 2, 3. The monitor flatlined for a full heartbeat, then spiked. A pulse hit the screen. Weak, but real. Gasps rippled through the room. Then, the general's eyes snapped open. He inhaled sharply, chest-jerking, fingers twitching toward her hand. When his gaze found hers, it landed with a force that made her step back. Recognition, fear, relief, all at once. "Eva," his voice cracked, barely audible. "You weren't supposed to survive." She froze. Every sound in the ER seemed to dissolve. Eva leaned closer, breath catching. "Sir, what are you talking about? You need to stay still." "Your team," he rasped. "A echo team. They said you died in that blast." Her throat tightened. Her vision flickered with ghosts. Sand, fire, screaming radios. the outpost collapsing around her. She forced a straight face. "Please, don't talk. You need—" "Weston." The word cut like a blade. Director Hill stood at the bay entrance, face cold as stone. "Office, now." Eva followed Hill down the hall. The director's office door slammed behind them. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Hill snapped. "You do not ever administer medication without a physician's approval." "He was poisoned," Eva said calmly. "You're a nurse," he shot back. "Not a toxicologist, not a doctor, not military command." Eva's jaw tightened. "He would have died." "He almost did. Because of you," Hill snapped. "You're terminated." Eva's hands went still. She didn't argue, didn't defend herself. She just pulled her badge from her scrub pocket and set it on the desk. "He wasn't crashing," she said quietly. "He was hit with a neurotoxin, the same signature compound that killed—" Her voice faltered. "That killed people I knew." "Get out before I call security," Hill said. Eva left without another word. In the hallway, heads turned. Conversation stopped. A few nurses looked down at their clipboards. One doctor muttered, "She's always thought she was more than a nurse." But as Eva walked toward the exit, her hands trembled. Not from getting fired, from the chilling realization forming in her mind. That toxin, that exact neurotoxin. Only one group had ever used it. Her team, Echo Team, the team she lost in the outpost explosion. The team she was told never existed. She reached the revolving doors and stopped. The ground shook under her feet. A light vibration at first, then a deeper tremor that rattled the windows. Shouts echoed from the lobby. "Is that a helicopter on the roof? Why would— Oh my God, those are Navy markings." Eva didn't move. Couldn't move. Her heartbeat slammed in her chest as the tremors intensified. The entire hospital vibrating under rotor blades, whipping the air above. People rushed past her toward the stairwell. Security guards ran. Residents scrambled. Doctors pushed forward, confusion on their faces. Eva stood in the doorway, breath held tight as a paramedic shouted from the hallway, "They're asking for someone named Eva Weston." Her blood turned cold. Footsteps thundered across the ceiling. Shouts rose above the building. Wind blasted down the stairwell. A voice boomed from the roof, echoing through every floor. "We need Eva Weston immediately. The general identified the toxin and he won't survive without her." The entire hospital fell silent. Every doctor, every nurse, every staff member who'd looked away from her in the hallway. Even Director Hill. Eva slowly turned toward the ceiling, heart pounding like a war drum, because she knew something no one else in that building understood. If the Navy was here, landing on a civilian hospital, asking for her by name, then this wasn't about saving a general. It meant the people who poisoned him were already inside the hospital. For a few seconds, Eva didn't move. The entire hospital seemed to pulse. A uniformed officer barreled down the stairwell, boots thudding. He scanned the lobby, then locked eyes on her instantly, like he'd been briefed with her face. "You, Eva Weston," he barked. She didn't nod, didn't speak, just stood there. "Come with me. Now." Director Hill rushed forward, face flushed. "Officer, she's been terminated. She's no longer permitted to—" The officer stepped closer. "With respect, sir, I'm not here to ask." The general woke up asking for her by name. "We have orders to bring her to him." "You can't just override hospital protocol," Hill snapped. The officer turned cold. "When a decorated Delta Force general gives a direct request, protocol is not your concern. His survival is." A hush settled over the lobby. Hill's face drained of colour. Without another word, he stepped aside. Eva followed the officer up the stairwell to the roof. Each step felt heavier than the last. Memories clawed at her. Sand, gunfire, smoke, the blast that tore Echo Team apart. She'd buried all of that years ago, buried herself with it. And yet, here she was, about to walk back into the same world that tried to kill her. The rooftop door slammed open, and the wind hit her like a wave. The helicopter's rotors were spinning down, casting violent gusts across the landing pad. Navy personnel stood in tight formation, scanning every corner like they were expecting an ambush. "Bring her!" one shouted. Eva stepped forward, heart pounding. The general lay on a stretcher inside the helicopter cabin, oxygen mask pressed to his face, body trembling with each breath. A Navy commander leaned over him, trying to stabilize a line that had come loose. The general turned his head. His eyes found hers instantly, even through the oxygen mask, even through the chaos. "Eva," he rasped. "It wasn't an accident." Her breath hitched. "What wasn't?" "The toxin," he said, lifting a shaking hand to point at her. "It's the same one from your outpost. Whoever hit us, they're here, inside, they're finishing what they started." The wind quieted. The world did too. The officer beside her leaned in. "The general told us you recognized the compound. You're the only medic who's treated this type of poisoning." "Alive," she repeated softly. "Alive?" When she wasn't supposed to be. Her squad hadn't been the only target. She understood that now. The blast wasn't just a mission gone wrong. It was a cleanup, an eraser, and she was a loose end. The commander stepped between them. "We need you inside. There's been another collapse in the ICU. Same symptoms. We suspect the poisoner is still active." Eva fought the urge to step back. "I'm fired. I shouldn't even be here." The commander's jaw tightened. "You're here because you're the only one who can stop this." The general reached out again, hand trembling, and caught her wrist. "Eva," he breathed, "don't let them die the way your team did." Her throat burned. She swallowed hard, nodding slowly. When she turned to the commander, her voice was steady. "Take me to the ICU." The elevator ride down was silent except for distant alarms. The commander briefed her quickly. The second victim was a communications officer assigned to escort the general. He collapsed inside the ICU, right under our noses. His tone darkened. This wasn't sloppy, it was precise. Eva inhaled sharply. "Then it's someone trained." "Exactly," he said, "and that terrifies me." The elevator doors opened. The ICU corridor shimmered under flickering lights. Nurses huddled behind the station desk, whispering anxiously. 2 guards stood outside room 14, hands hovering near their holsters. "He's inside," one guard said, still unresponsive. Eva pushed into the room and her breath caught. The comm officer lay pale and limp, the same purplish tint creeping up his throat. Cold sweat rolled down his temples. His lips had that faint cyanotic hue that made her stomach twist. She approached the bedside, fingers trembling as she examined the IV line. The bag looked normal. Too normal. "What's wrong?" the commander asked. "Who hung this IV?" she whispered. A nurse behind her stuttered. I think it was Rachel from night shift." "Rachel doesn't work days," Eva said. Everyone froze. Her gaze slid to the floor. A single drop of clear fluid clung to the tile under the IV pole, reflecting the overhead light with an oily sheen, only visible if you knew to look for it. Eva's voice dropped to a whisper. "The poisoner used the ICU." The room snapped into motion. The commander ordered guards to lock down the wing, but Eva barely heard him. Her eyes traced the tiny trail of droplets leading out the door, down the hall, toward the east wing. The path ended at a utility closet. She stepped closer. There, just above the handle, a faint smear of residue caught the light. Chemical, gritty, unmistakable. Her breath shuddered. This was the same compound Echo Team encountered the day the outpost fell. The same compound she thought was destroyed. Her pulse raced. "This isn't just an attack, this is a message." "What kind of message?" the commander asked. "No, a purge," she whispered. "They're eliminating anyone who touched the original files, anyone who knew the truth." Before he could respond, an overhead alarm blared. "Code Red. Unauthorized breach in pharmacology. Repeat, Code Red." Eva and the commander exchanged a look. Then they ran. They rounded the corner into the pharmacology wing, and Eva stopped dead. The door to the controlled substances room was wide open, lights flickering, cart overturned, vials smashed across the floor like someone had swept their arm across an entire shelf. But worse was the figure caught on the security feed above the door. A person in scrubs, face masked, moving with precision, with confidence, like someone trained. The commander stared at the screen. "Is that—" Eva's blood turned to ice. "I know that walk. I know that stance." Her heart thundered. "It can't be." The masked figure turned their head just enough for the camera to catch the angle of their jaw, the way they held the tray, the way their foot pivoted before stepping out of frame. Eva's knees nearly buckled, because she'd seen that exact movement every day for years, on someone she buried, someone Echo Team mourned, someone who died in the blast that should have killed her too, someone who couldn't possibly be alive. But the grainy screen didn't care about what was possible. It only showed the truth. The poisoner was a member of Echo Team, alive, here inside this hospital, and hunting her. Eva stared at the security feed like the screen itself had turned into a ghost. The masked figure moved with a rhythm she knew by muscle memory, a rhythm forged in sand, smoke, and survival. The slight tilt of the head before entering a room, the exact foot pivot, the relaxed shoulders even under pressure, all movements Echo Team practiced until they were identical, familiar, unmistakable. The commander stepped closer. "Do you recognize them?" Her throat tightened. "I need to see the footage again." He rewound it. The figure slipped into the pharmacology room, confident, efficient, never hesitating. They didn't search. They knew exactly where every vial was stored. The commander's voice softened. "Eva, if you know who this is—" "They died," she said. "They all died. I watched." Her voice cracked. Memories forced their way back like shrapnel, sand whipping in the wind, a radio screaming, a blast that tore the outpost apart, bodies thrown like ragdolls. Her own breath knocked out as she was buried under debris. For years, she'd believed she was the only one who crawled out alive. But now, the screen flickered again. The masked figure turned just enough to show the shape of their jaw beneath the surgical mask. And the truth hit her with the weight of a collapsing roof. It wasn't just anyone from Echo Team. It was someone she trusted. Someone she fought beside. Someone who saved her life more than once. It was Reed Dalton, her second in command, her mentor, her friend, her ghost. Eva stumbled back, hitting the wall. "No, he died. I saw his helmet. I saw his tags." The commander grabbed her shoulders, steadying her. "Eva, he's here, and he's killing your people again." A sudden voice cracked over the overhead speaker. "All units, report to pediatrics. Suspected intruder seen heading toward East Wing." Eva's eyes widened. "Pediatrics? Why would he—" But she didn't finish the question. She already knew. Reed wasn't just poisoning soldiers. He was moving through the hospital to get to her, and he didn't care who got in his way. She took off down the hallway before the commander could stop her. Boots thundered behind her as he and 2 Navy guards sprinted to keep up. They turned a corner into pediatrics. Nurses huddled behind the station desk, whispering frantically. "He went that way," one cried, pointing toward the isolation rooms. "Mask on?" Eva asked. The nurse nodded shakily. Eva swallowed hard. Reed always wore a mask on ops, not for anonymity, but because he liked controlling oxygen flow in closed environments. He once told her, "Air is a battlefield. People forget that." She never forgot it. They approached the first isolation room slowly. No signs of entry. Then the second, empty. Then the third. Eva stopped dead. The door was cracked open. Just a sliver. The commander signaled his guards, but Eva shook her head sharply. "He'll expect a tactical breach." "You think you should go alone?" he whispered. "It's Reed," she said. "If he sees uniforms, he'll run. If he sees me—" She forced a breath. He'll stay. The commander reluctantly nodded. Eva pushed the door open and stepped into the isolation room. It was dark, blinds drawn. A faint hum from the air purifier filled the silence. A small crib stood in the corner, empty, thank God. But the room wasn't empty. A shadow shifted behind the curtain. Eva's pulse pounded. "Reed, I know it's you." Silence. Then a single step, slow, deliberate. The curtain slid aside, and there he was, masked, gloved, surgical scrubs hanging loosely on his frame. But the eyes, those sharp grey eyes, those hadn't changed since the outpost. He'd always looked at her like he could see through her, like he expected her to understand things no one else could. And now he looked at her like prey. "Eva," he said softly through the mask, voice breaking through the room like thin, cracked glass. Her entire body went cold. "You're alive." He tilted his head. "And you weren't supposed to be." Her knees threatened to give out. "Why, Reed? Why kill the general? Why come here?" "You know why," he said calmly. "You saw the files they tried to burn. You saw what Echo Team discovered, and they erased us to keep it quiet. But you survived," she whispered. He stepped closer. "I survived because I chose the winning side." She felt the world tilt. "You helped them. You betrayed us." He didn't flinch. "They offered me a way out. You—" His eyes hardened. "You were supposed to die in that blast." Her hand darted toward the door, but Reed raised a vial between his fingers. Clear, liquid, colourless, odourless, the same toxin. "You take one more step," Reed said softly, "and I flood this entire wing. Children, Eva, nurses, anyone in range. You know what this stuff does." The commander's voice came through her earpiece. "Eva, status, do you need backup?" Eva didn't answer. Couldn't. Reed moved closer. "You should have stayed dead." Her eyes pricked with tears she refused to let fall. "Reed, whatever happened to you—" He cut her off. "What happened to me? I accepted the truth. Our country experiments, our leaders lie, and operatives like us? We're disposable." His hand tightened around the vial. The vial, she knew, could kill dozens in seconds. Her whole body trembled. "Reed, you don't have to do this." "Oh," he said softly. "But I do." A faint sound broke the tension, movement in the hallway. The commander and his guards weren't waiting anymore. Reed's head snapped toward the door. His grip tightened. In one swift motion, he hurled the vial toward the floor. Eva screamed, "No!" But she was faster. Her hand shot out. Fingers grazed the vial midair. Glass shifted direction, hit the wall, shattered. A cloud of toxin burst outward. Eva grabbed the edge of the curtain and threw it over the spill just in time, sealing the vapor beneath fabric. The air purifier roared, sucking fumes toward its filter. Reed didn't stay. He jumped through the adjoining door, evacuation exit, and vanished into the stairwell. The commander rushed in seconds later. "Eva, are you—" She didn't let him finish. "He's heading for the lower levels. He's going to release the toxin into the ventilation system." The commander froze. "That would kill half the hospital." Eva grabbed his arm, eyes burning. "No, that will kill everyone." Eva bolted down the stairwell, boots slamming against metal steps as alarms wailed. Each floor blurred past, fourth, third, second, her breath sharp and controlled, muscles burning with adrenaline she hadn't felt since the desert. The commander and his guards thundered behind her, but she didn't slow. She couldn't. If Reed reached the lower levels, he could access the central ventilation shutoff. A single vial of that toxin pumped through the ducts would drop patients, nurses, doctors, everyone, within minutes. "Reed!" she shouted into the echoing stairwell. "Don't do this!" Her voice bounced off concrete, hollow and unanswered. When she burst into the basement corridor, the air changed instantly. Colder, thicker, humming with the low vibration of industrial systems. Fluorescent lights flickered in long rows, painting the hallway in sharp white and deep shadow. Then she saw him. At the far end of the corridor, Reed stood in front of a steel service door marked Restricted Access, Ventilation Control. One hand hovered over the keypad. The other held a canister, larger than the vials he'd been using. Industrial grade, enough toxin to poison the entire building in under 90 seconds. He didn't turn around when she called his name again. "Reed, you don't have to do this." His shoulders lifted in a slow laugh. Quiet, bitter, broken. "You keep saying that like any of this was my choice, like any of us ever had a choice." Eva stepped forward carefully. "What did they do to you?" Reed finally turned. Even with the mask on, she could see it in his eyes. The thing that replaced the man she once trusted. Pain, betrayal, and something worse, conviction, the burn of someone who believed he was right. "They turned us into ghosts," he said. "They erased us, Eva. Echo Team blew the whistle on a covert toxin program. Do you remember? Of course you don't. They wiped the files clean. They wiped us clean." Eva's breath caught. A memory flickered. Papers burning, hard drives smashed, Reed shouting into a radio that no one answered. "You survived," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "And do you know what they told me afterward? That the explosion was convenient." His voice shook with fury. "Our deaths tied up the loose ends until you woke up in that rubble." Her chest tightened as the truth settled over her. "You think killing civilians will fix that?" "They aren't civilians," Reed snapped. "Not to the people who did this. They're witnesses. They patched up the general. They saw the symptoms. They saw you." He pointed the canister at her. "You're the biggest threat of all." Eva's voice broke. "Reed, you were my family." He paused. That sentence hit him. She could see it. The slight tremor in his hand, the flicker in his eyes as the mission and their memories collided. But the moment didn't last. He studied the canister. "Family doesn't survive in the shadows, Eva. Only killers do." Eva stepped forward, heart pounding so loud she could hear it in her ears. "Then kill me, but don't touch them." Reed hesitated, and that was all she needed. Eva lunged. Reed reacted instantly, swinging the canister. It clipped her shoulder, sending her crashing into the wall. Pain exploded down her arm, but she rolled with it, grabbing his wrist and twisting. He grunted, slamming her back into the steel door so hard the impact rattled her teeth. "You always were the fighter," he growled. Eva shoved her knee into his ribs. The canister slipped from his grasp, clattering across the floor. They both dove for it, hands brushing metal. Reed kicked her side, sending her sprawling. He grabbed the canister again and sprinted toward the keypad. The commander and guards burst into the corridor, but Reed spun, hurling a flash canister from his pocket. It detonated with blinding white fury. Everyone reeled, everyone except Eva. She'd trained for this. Through the fading blast, she lunged again, body slamming into Reed. They crashed to the floor, grappling for control, his hands clawing for the canister valve. Eva's fingers caught his wrist, twisting until something cracked. Reed screamed. The canister rolled free again. This time, Eva pounced. She ripped the valve housing clean off and smashed it against the concrete. The toxin container hissed softly for a moment, then went silent, disabled, useless. Reed stared at her, chest heaving, rage dissolving into something hollow. "You think you saved them? You just signed your death sentence." He reached for a scalpel hidden in his sleeve. Eva didn't hesitate. She struck his forearm, twisting, disarming him with a single practiced move, one she'd learned from him years ago. The blade skittered across the floor. Reed collapsed to his knees, breath ragged. "For Echo Team," he whispered. Ava's voice cracked. "Echo Team died trying to save people, not kill them." His eyes softened for the first time. Maybe that's why we lost." She tightened her grip on his arm. "No, that's why we mattered." Before Reed could answer, the commander regained his footing, signaling his guards. They swarmed in and pinned Reed to the ground. He didn't resist. Not anymore. Eva backed away, chest heaving, tears burning her eyes. Her world felt like it was collapsing again. Reed, alive, broken, trying to finish a mission that was never theirs. But now she could finally end it. They brought her back to the ICU. The comm officer was stable. The general's vitals were stronger. The toxin didn't reach the ventilation system. Families were safe. Nurses were alive. The hospital hadn't turned into another graveyard. When the general saw Eva in the doorway, he lifted a trembling hand. "You stopped him." Eva swallowed hard. "No, I stopped myself from becoming him." The general nodded, eyes heavy with respect. Echo Team would be proud. Her throat closed around a breath she couldn't release. The Navy commander approached. "Ma'am, the Pentagon wants to debrief you. Your file, your original file, has been reopened." Eva stared at the floor. That door, that shadow she left behind in the desert. Part of her wanted to run. Part of her wanted to bury it all again. But the biggest part of her, the part that saved people even when it cost her everything, knew the truth. If she didn't show up to that debrief, someone else would finish what Reed started. She lifted her gaze. "Tell them I'll come." The commander nodded. "We lift off in 10. She walked toward the elevator, past nurses who stared at her like she was something mythic, past doctors who suddenly understood the woman they'd dismissed, past Director Hill, who looked like he wanted to apologize but couldn't find the words. Eva didn't slow. She stepped onto the roof as sunrise broke over the city, painting the helicopter in gold. For the first time in years, the world felt quiet. Her choice waited on the horizon. She took a breath. Then she stepped toward the helicopter.